I was gardening on a bright afternoon. In the backyard, my kid was occupied with her toys. I was enjoying myself while tending to the young flowers when I heard the gate open. It was my mother-in-law, telling the cabbie to load up with her stuff. There was even a large package with shopping bags. I let out a long sigh. It seems like she went shopping once more. She beckoned me when the driver departed, saying, "Tessa, come here, girl." I went straight to her. Make oneself feel valuable. Once inside, place these bags and move that large crate to the ceiling. And kindly refrain from touching any of these. You are jealous, I know, but just show some manners and never try to take anything. I never would steal, I answered. She laughed. That is something a liar and a desperate girl would say. She gave me a rolling look. What's holding you back? Get up and go. Like I was her maid, she gave me instructions. However, I'm already accustomed to this level of care. She always makes me do things for her while my spouse isn't there, emphasizing how envious I am of her. My life hasn't been the same since she moved in with us. I did as she asked and brought her shopping bags inside. I carried the large container to the roof. As I descended, I observed her examining her just acquired jewelry while on the phone with someone. My son is quite brave and giving, of course. He permits me to purchase using his credit card. Indeed, garments, footwear, and eyewear. Even so, I purchased a new tanning bed. Yes, our maid did assist me with the items. She even made it to the 3rd story with the box. Fortunately, she is not worthless. You know, after a long day of shopping, I have to unwind. What she said infuriated me so much. What did she say when she referred to me as her maid? Did my spouse lend her his card? That isn't feasible. My spouse is extremely frugal with money and avoids unnecessary purchases. Where did she get all of his money, I wonder? Mom, how much does all your shopping cost? I made a really courteous inquiry. Taking it personally, she moved in my direction. Dear, is that the type of question you asked me? How do you feel about me? Low cost and inadequate. It is not relevant to you. It's possible that you're simply envious of me since I'm so wealthy and can afford everything I want, while you're from a low-income background. Without my son, you would still be living in the slums, therefore you have him to thank. She gave another rolling of her eyes and returned to caring to her jewels. Her remarks hurt me deeply. She can so easily make fun of my family, especially myself. She is often upset with me, but I have nothing against her. I didn't reply and carried on preparing dinner. I've been mistreated by her for a year, but I'm hesitant to tell my husband about it for fear that it would destroy their marriage. During supper later that evening, my spouse confided in me about his trip to Singapore. It'll take place in a far-off village. Although it is only for 2 months, there would be no signal and it would be difficult to get in touch with me. I gave him a grin and took his arm. Remain calm, my dear. I promise that I will take good care of you, so you shouldn't worry. Son, are you sure you'll be away that long? My mother-in-law cut me off, drawing my husband's eye to herself. Instead of hearing concern in her tone, I sensed excitement, as if she were about to take action. Yes, Mom, I apologize if it needs to take that long. This trip is really necessary for my advancement. Fiona smiled when she heard those remarks. Well, don't worry, I know what you mean. You must, of course, put in a lot of effort and provide a living for the family. Yes, we will be quite wealthy. Am I correct, sweetie, in saying that I would look after everyone and assist Tessa in this house? She grinned. Her deceit was glaringly obvious. I didn't even try to reply to her. I simply concentrated on my meal and assisted my daughter with hers. She seems to have made a good impression on my husband since she was pleasant during the entire supper. Surprisingly, she offered to clear the table when I was about to. Don't concern yourself, my sweetheart. Tonight I'll clean up the dishes. She gave me a grin and gave my spouse a brief sidelong glance. My mother-in-law hurriedly set down the dishes as Luca and our daughter headed to our bedroom as I was simply looking at her. "It's brave of you to think that I'll wash the dishes here." "Done, girl. Get them out of my sight." "Why? Why are you acting in this manner?" "What? Remember where you were supposed to be. You're only a spouse. His mother is me. Here, you are the servant and I am the master. I'll hurl all these dishes at you if you don't clean this up right away." "You're being so mean to me." "Whoa, am I being cruel to you? Are you going to weep now? I see. How do you intend to proceed? Admit that I'm being cruel to my son? Like he's going to eject me from this place." Her tone was snarky and sarcastic. I said nothing because I could take no more of her. She continued to chuckle as though she had come out on top in the debate. Her feet lolled after she dropped a dish on them. She did something that startled me. When one of the maids arrived to save me, my mother-in-law began to sob and scream in agony. This cannot be true. She intentionally did it. She shoved me away as I attempted to assist her. My spouse hurried up to her. "Mom, what happened?" Fiona gestured toward me. I was done this by her. She became irrationally upset with me. "This is untrue. I took no action." "Tessa, don't tell lies. You were upset with me for having interrupted you before. Why are you treating me like this?" She sobbed in the middle of her remark. "I'm your mother." Her deceitful actions irritated me beyond control. My spouse let out a sigh. "Let's resolve this first thing tomorrow. Let's take care of you first, Mom." With assistance, Luca brought her up to her room. My spouse is someone I trust, and I know he'll believe me. I persisted, even though one of our maids stated she would do it. I've had enough of my mother-in-law's bad attitude, and can no longer put up with it. I told my spouse the truth about what had really transpired that evening. He was aware of my feelings and considering taking action against his mother's treatment of me. The day of my spouse's departure arrived. We said goodbye with an embrace. He gave our daughter and me a kiss. "It's goodbye, Ali. Please be a nice girl. Dad will shortly return home." "Dad, you are loved. Observe self-care." I gave my hubby another embrace and planted a kiss on his lips. I noticed my mother-in-law engrossed to her phone as we were breaking up. "Oh, Mom, I'm about to go." She regained consciousness upon hearing my spouse's voice. She gave my spouse a hug and grinned. I didn't notice her strange behavior, even though it seemed like she was being careful and guilty. My hubby went for Singapore 5 days ago. My mother-in-law treated me brutally as always. I accidentally soaked her slippers, so she instructed me to clean her toilet and even shoved me down the bathroom floor. She loses her temper at the little things. As I was teaching my kid the alphabet, I heard my mother-in-law scream loudly from her bedroom. As I descended the steps, I noticed her whimpering on the ground. "What is wrong?" She got up and gestured at me with her finger when she heard me speak. "It's you." Her words baffled me much. "It's you who stole all my jewelry." My mother-in-law shoved me on the bed and yanked my hair in a frenzied manner. I never done anything, so why is she accusing me of it? This is ridiculous. You have no right to take my accessories. You're a brazen, ungrateful person for daring to take my belongings. You're a sly, jealous girl. Leave now. My daughter noticed the disturbance. Her cries for my name were audible to me. Fiona grabbed hold of my hair and pulled me through her bedroom, corner to corner. "Please, you're hurting me. You deserve that. Granny, please let go of Mommy." I heard my daughter begging for forgiveness. "Ember, just let things be. Your mother ought to burn in hell, since she is a robber." She pulled me toward the front entrance from the bedroom. Ember's cries and requests for her grandma to stop were audible to me. Fiona hurled the closest object she could find at me and shoved me out of the home. My forehead blew from the blow she gave me to the head with a book. Ember passed out at the sight of the blood. My mother-in-law shut me out of the main entrance as soon as I went at her. I caught her sly smile just in time. "What is wrong with her? I will never let someone like you near my granddaughter." Knowing that Ember was afraid of blood and that she had just passed out, I began to get really anxious. Even my mother-in-law couldn't be trusted to be with her alone. My heart was racing as I knocked on the door again and again. "Open the door, please. Allow me to visit Ember. I promise not to have stolen anything. Why are you treating me like this? I long for my daughter to return." I banged on the door numerous times, saying these phrases each time. I was quite concerned for my daughter. My forehead was bleeding, and I was unable to get in touch with my spouse. I was not going to accept that any of this was real. When they still hadn't responded, I gave up. My suspicions grew. My baby was on my mind constantly, and I couldn't stop weeping. I made the choice to remain at my friend's place. I had nothing at all. I required cash or a phone. Even my home clothes were on. I left everything, including my cherished daughter, at home. For 5 days, I attempted to go back to the house, but my mother-in-law forbade me from going into the village. I stole all of her jewels she had already rumored. My spouse and daughter still hadn't given me any updates after 2 days. While I was buying food and attempting to get my energy back, I noticed a familiar face. "Nora, is that you?" "Madam MacArthur." The moment she realized who I was, she gave me a hug. One of our maids was there. I questioned her about my kid, glancing at her. "How is Ember doing? Is she ours? Is she in pain?" Before speaking with me, Nora had a look around. She took a step forward him and attempted a whisper. "Ember is doing okay. Actually, I'm protecting her. I needed to find out, but I truly wanted to get in touch with you. But for now it is irrelevant. The truth is what counts most. You must be aware of her mystery. Your mother-in-law is really having problems." "What? How do you mean?" "Ma'am Fiona has leased a residence. She was beaten in a bet. She obtains her money from there, which she uses to purchase all she desires. Sadly, though, she lost and unintentionally wagered the whole house. She was really terrified, to be honest, with her kid. She is afraid that you could inform your spouse, which is why she wanted you out. Madam, please, you must take action." After hearing what I just did, my heart fell. My concern for my child became even more. My mother-in-law is really wicked. She bet the house, how dare she? She is a moron, and all of my husband's hard work will go to waste. I urged Nora while holding her hand. "You have to assist me, but I'll do something. Are you someone I can trust?" She gave a nod. "All right. Tomorrow, I would want to see you here again. Please bring my money and phone. I'll speak with Luca and fill him in on everything." "Nora, are you with me?" "Yes, ma'am, I am." And with that, Nora left. All I had to do was wait for her to do the task. The next day, we reconnected in the shop. She gave me my wallet and phone. "Madam, don't worry. Ember is doing well. I informed her that you were doing well and that you and Mr. Luca will shortly return home. Thank you so much for your kind heart, Nora." After we split up, I began corresponding with my spouse. He eventually responded after several efforts, and by multiple, I mean nearly a day of phoning and redealing. "Hi there, my dear. Is there a problem?" His voice carried anxiety, which I could detect. The fact that he located a signal place was fortunate. I filled him in on everything. As I told him what had happened, I started weeping. "It's unbelievable that she would do this to you, her family, and me. Remain calm. I promise to return as soon as I can. Her malevolence must end. We'll reclaim our home and Ember." He boarded the quickest flight back home after traveling to the center city. A day later, I was picked up from my friend's house by Luca. Fiona was having a tea party when we got to our place. How daring! Even though our house is about to be rented out to another person, she still has the audacity to throw a party. As soon as we exited our vehicle, Luca put an end to the celebration. "Quit this foolishness. Mother, what are you doing?" Everyone in the backyard, including my mother-in-law, had a look of amazement and bewilderment in their eyes. Ember quickly raced to me after spotting me. She sobbed and gave me a strong embrace. "My dear, you were missed. I apologize for taking so long." Fiona began to approach my husband closely. "So, son, what are you doing here? Is that not the question I should be asking you?" I've heard that you accused Tessa of stealing, threw her out of the house, and even stopped her from visiting our kid. And I found even more ridiculous news. You lost all your money on a gambling wager, and now you're so confident you can have a party and spend money. Are you truly that callous? All around me, I could hear whispers. They were waiting for my mother-in-law to respond, staring at her closely. That is untrue. That's who told you. Your spouse. She's playing you like a puppet. She's working against me with you. Her real gift is her ability to put words in my lips. She is a little wicked person. My spouse lost it and banged the closest table. The visitors let out a shocked yell. Mother, stop lying to me. I am fully informed. We know Nora would never mislead us because she told it like it was. I can't believe you can do this to my family and me. You are my mother. My mother-in-law went on her knees and started crying. Son, I apologize. Please, all I want is to continue living the way I do. I want the world to know that even though I'm rich, you still think of me as your mother. The fact that Tessa has it all makes me envious. Please know that I will do all in my power to reimburse you for the house. All right, so starting today, you will be making monthly payments for the house until the lease is cancelled. It needs to be paid within 3 months. But I don't have that vast amount of money. Remember that you're rich, you can make use of your jewels, clothing, and luggage. Right now, where are they? Utilize them to settle your bills. Fiona pleaded once again. Please allow me to adjust. Please don't force me to pay. That is something a liar and a desperate girl would say. When she understood I was referring to the statement she had told me earlier, she sobbed even more. It turned against her. One of the guests got to his feet. Fiona, you never stopped boasting about the possessions you had, and during the whole period, you purchased them from an unlicensed company. One of the guests got up and expressed her opinions. You are truly a terrible person, even if I always assumed you were simply self-centered. You really are the worst. I hope you make new acquaintances because I don't want to be connected to someone as abusive as you. After that, every visitor departed. Fiona begged her son again while crying, but Luca turned cold toward her. Mom, it's over. You must apply what you've learned. Fiona was left alone in the house as well. We gave her till the end of the house's account to settle. She was ultimately lonely and alone because of her rudeness and selfishness.
The knife sliced through the air, missing my ear by a hair's breadth. I froze, my heart pounding as I stared at my mother-in-law, Jane, who stood there with a maniacal grin, brandishing the cake knife like a weapon. Oh, I'm so sorry, Ava dear, she cooed, her voice dripping with false sweetness. My hand must have slipped. Here, let me cut you a slice of cake. Cake. I stepped back, my hands trembling. No thank you, Jane. I think I've lost my appetite. Matthew, my husband, rushed to my side. Mom, what the hell? You could have hurt Ava. Jane's face crumpled into a mask of innocence. Oh, Matthew, don't be silly. It was an accident. Ava knows I'd never hurt her intentionally, don't you, dear? I bit my tongue, fighting the urge to scream. This was supposed to be a joyous family gathering to celebrate Matthew's promotion, but leave it to Jane to turn it into a nightmare. I think we should go, I whispered to Matthew, tugging at his sleeve. He nodded, his jaw clenched. Yeah, I think that's best. Dad, we're heading out. George, Matthew's father, looked up from his plate, bewildered. But you've barely touched your food. What's the rush? Ask your wife, Matthew snapped, grabbing our coats. As we made our way to the door, Jane's saccharine voice followed us. Leaving so soon? But I made your favorite dessert, Matthew. Don't you want to stay? I could see the conflict in Matthew's eyes. He loved his mother despite her quirks, but he loved me too, and I knew he was torn. We'll take some to go, Mom, he said finally, his voice strained. Jane's eyes narrowed, but she plastered on a smile. Of course, darling. Let me wrap that up for you. As she disappeared into the kitchen, I turned to Matthew. We can't keep doing this, I hissed. Your mother is out of control. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing. I know. But what can I do? She's my mother. She's a menace, I retorted. And if we don't do something, she's going to destroy our marriage. Before Matthew could respond, Jane reappeared, holding a Tupperware container. "Here you go, sweetie. I made sure to give you an extra large piece." As Matthew took the container, Jane's eyes locked with mine, the hatred in her gaze unmistakable. "Drive safe now," she said, her voice sickly sweet. "And Ava dear, do try to be more careful around sharp objects. We wouldn't want any accidents." I felt a chill run down my spine as we left the house. In the car, I turned to Matthew. "You heard that, right? That wasn't just me." He sighed, starting the engine. "I heard it. Look, I'll talk to her, okay? She'll come around eventually." I snorted. "Yeah, right? And pigs might fly." As we drove home in tense silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Jane had always disliked me, but tonight felt different, more dangerous. I glanced at the Tupperware container on my lap, suddenly suspicious. "Matthew, pull over." "What? Why?" "Just do it." He complied, and I got out of the car, opening the container. The smell hit me first, acrid and wrong. I dumped the contents onto the grass and gasped. "Matthew, look at this." He came around the car, his eyes widening as he saw the cake. It was laced with something, tiny white crystals that definitely weren't sugar. "Oh my God," he whispered, "she wouldn't?" But we both knew the truth. Jane had crossed the line, and there was no going back. As we stood there staring at the tainted cake in the moonlight, I knew our lives would never be the same. The war with Jane had begun, and I was determined to win, no matter the cost. I stared at the photo album, my fingers tracing the edges of a picture from 5 years ago. There I was, beamy in my white dress, Matthew at my side, and there, just behind us, was Jane, her smile as brittle as glass. "Penny for your thoughts." Matthew's voice startled me from my reverie. I snapped the album shut, just remembering the day I met your mother. God, I was so naive. Matthew sighed, settling beside me on the couch. "You couldn't have known, Ava. None of us did. But I should have. The signs were there from the very beginning." I closed my eyes, remembering that fateful day 5 years ago. Matthew and I had just gotten engaged and were heading to his parents' house for dinner. I was nervous, eager to make a good impression. Jane had opened the door, her perfectly coiffed hair and immaculate outfit making me feel underdressed in my work clothes. "You must be Ava," she'd said, her eyes sweeping over me critically. "I thought you'd be taller." I'd laughed it off then, chalking it up to nerves, but as the evening wore on, Jane's barbs became sharper, more pointed. "So Ava," she'd said over dessert, "Matthew tells me you're quite career-focused. I do hope you'll find time for a family. A woman's most important job is being a mother, after all." I'd nearly choked on my coffee. "Well, I believe a woman can have both a career and a family," I'd replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Jane's eyes had narrowed. "How modern of you." The tension in the room had been palpable. George, bless him, had tried to change the subject, but Jane wasn't done. "And what exactly do your parents think of your ambitions?" she'd asked, her voice dripping with disdain. I'd straightened my spine, meeting her gaze. "My parents are proud of me. They've always encouraged me to follow my dreams." Jane had sniffed. "I see. Well, I suppose not everyone values tradition these days." The memory faded, and I found myself back in the present, anger bubbling in my chest. "She hated me from the start, Matthew," I said, my voice tight. "And now she's trying to poison us, literally." Matthew ran a hand through his hair, his face a mask of anguish. I know, but what can we do? She's my mother." I stood up, pacing the room. "We need to confront her, make her understand that her behavior is unacceptable." Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Stay away from my son, you gold-digging harlot, or else." I showed the message to Matthew, watching the color drain from his face. "This has gone too far," he muttered, pulling out his own phone. "I'm calling her right now." As Matthew dialed, the doorbell rang. We exchanged a wary glance. "I'll get it," I said, moving towards the door. I opened it to find Jane standing there, a saccharine smile on her face and a casserole dish in her hands. "Surprise?" she chirped. "I thought I'd drop by with a little home-cooked meal. You two must be so busy with your careers, you probably don't have time for proper nutrition." I stood frozen, my mind racing. Behind me, I could hear Matthew's voice rising as he argued with someone on the phone. Jane's eyes narrowed. "Aren't you going to invite me in, dear?" I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. Jane, I don't think. Mom, Matthew appeared behind me, his face a storm of emotions. What are you doing here? Jane's smile never wavered. Just bringing my favorite couple a little treat. Won't you let me in? I glanced at the casserole dish, remembering the tainted cake. My stomach churned. Actually, Jane, I said, finding my voice at last. We need to talk about boundaries, respect, and your recent actions. Jane's smile faltered for a moment before returning, brighter and more menacing than ever. Oh, Ava, she purred, pushing past me into the house. I think it's high time we had a little chat, indeed. As the door closed behind her, I caught Matthew's eye. The look we shared was clear. This confrontation was long overdue, and there was no telling how it would end. I never thought I'd dread checking my mailbox, but here I was, heart pounding as I reached for the stack of envelopes. Bills, junk mail, and there it was, another pink envelope reeking of Jane's cloying perfume. With trembling hands, I tore it open. Inside was a cutesy card with kittens on the front. The message inside made my blood run cold. Tick-tock, dear. Your biological clock is running out. Matthew deserves a real family. I crumpled the card, fury rising in my chest. This was the third one this week. Jane's campaign of psychological warfare was relentless. As I stormed back to the house, I nearly collided with our neighbor, Mrs. Simmons. Oh, Ava, she exclaimed, her eyes narrowing. I was just coming to see you. I forced a smile. Hi, Mrs. Simmons. What can I do for you? She pursed her lips. Well, I couldn't help but notice that poor Jane has been looking after your garden lately. It's so kind of her, considering her health issues. I blinked, confused. I'm sorry, what? Mrs. Simmons tutted. Don't play dumb, dear. Jane told us all about how you've been neglecting her, refusing to help with her doctor's appointments, and ignoring her calls. It's shameful, really, she declared. My jaw dropped. That's not true at all. Jane has been. Save your excuses, Mrs. Simmons cut me off. We all know the truth. You're too wrapped up in your career to care about family. No wonder you haven't given Matthew children yet. She turned on her heel and marched away, leaving me stunned and humiliated on my own doorstep. Inside, I found Matthew at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. Matt, I said softly, what's wrong? He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. My boss called. Apparently, someone's been sending anonymous emails to the company claiming I'm unstable and unfit for my position. They're considering letting me go. My heart sank. Oh, Matt, I'm so sorry. Do you think? He nodded grimly. It has to be her. Who else would do this? I sank into the chair beside him, my mind reeling. She's destroying our lives, Matt. The neighbors think I'm neglecting her. She's trying to get you fired. What's next? Matthew reached for my hand. We need to confront her together. This has to stop. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Check your email, sweetheart. You might find something interesting. With a sense of dread, I opened my inbox. There, in bold letters, was a message from my company's HR department regarding your resignation. No, I whispered, my voice breaking. She didn't. Matthew peered over my shoulder, his face darkening. She faked your resignation. That's it. We're going over there right now. As we grabbed our keys and headed for the door, it burst open. There stood Jane, her face a mask of concern. Oh, my dears, she cried. I came as soon as I heard. Ava, losing your job like that, and Matthew, those terrible rumors at work. You poor things must be devastated. I stared at her, speechless with rage. How dare she stand there pretending to care when she was the cause of all this misery? Matthew stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. Cut the act, Mom. We know what you've been doing. Jane's eyes widened in feigned innocence. What on earth do you mean, sweetheart? I'm only here to help. Help? I exploded. You call this helping? You've been trying to ruin our lives. Jane's facade cracked for a moment, a flash of malice in her eyes. I'm only doing what's best for my son. He deserves better than you. The tension in the room was palpable. Matthew stood between us, torn between the woman he loved and the mother who raised him. Enough, he said finally. This ends now. We're going to sit down and hash this out once and for all. As we moved to the living room, the air thick with unspoken accusations, I couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation would change everything. For better or worse, our family would never be the same after today. The Christmas tree lights twinkled mockingly as I stood in the corner of Jane and George's living room, clutching my glass of wine like a lifeline. The annual family gathering had barely begun, and already I felt like I was suffocating. More eggnog, anyone? Jane's saccharine voice cut through the forced cheer, her eyes locked onto mine with a predatory gleam. Ava dear, you're not drinking. Surely you're not expecting. The room fell silent. I felt the weight of everyone's stares, especially Matthew's. We'd been trying for a baby for months with no success. It was a sore point, one Jane loved to prod. No, Jane, I said, my voice tight, just watching my alcohol intake. Such a shame, she continued. You know, at your age, every month counts, tick-tock, as they say. I saw Matthew tense, ready to intervene, but I shook my head slightly. I wouldn't let her bait me, not today. As the evening wore on, Jane's barbs became sharper, more frequent. She regaled the family with stories of Matthew's childhood, pointedly mentioning how she'd given up her career to raise him. Of course, some women prefer their jobs to family, she said, her gaze boring into me. I suppose that's why some never become mothers. That was it. I slammed my glass down, wine sloshing over the rim. Enough, Jane. Just say what you really mean. The room went deadly quiet. Jane's eyes widened in fox innocence. Whatever do you mean, Ava? You think I'm a failure as a wife because I work, because I haven't given you grandchildren yet? Well, guess what? My worth isn't determined by my ability to procreate. Jane's mask slipped, revealing the spite beneath. No, your worth is determined by how you treat family, and you, my dear, are sorely lacking. Mom, Matthew interjected, but Jane was on a roll. You've torn this family apart, she hissed, with your selfish career ambitions and your inability to give Matthew children. He deserves better. I felt like I'd been slapped. Tears pricked my eyes as I looked around the room. George stared at his feet, avoiding conflict as usual. Matthew's cousins whispered among themselves, and Matthew just stood there frozen. In that moment, I'd never felt more alone. You want to know why we don't have kids yet, Jane? I said, my voice shaking. Because every doctor we've seen says the stress in our lives is affecting our fertility. And you know what the biggest source of that stress is? You. Gasps echoed around the room. Jane's face turned an alarming shade of red. How dare you blame me for your shortcomings? To confront her, ChatGPT, she shrieked, Matthew, are you going to let her speak to me like this? All eyes turned to Matthew. This was it, the moment he had to choose, his wife or his mother. But Matthew remained silent, his face a mask of anguish. And in his silence, I heard everything I needed to know. Merry Christmas, everyone, I said quietly, grabbing my coat. I think it's best if I go. As I walked out into the cold night air, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, half hoping to see Matthew. Instead, it was George. Ava, wait, he said, his voice gentle. I'm so sorry. What Jane said. It wasn't right. I smiled sably. But you didn't stop her, did you, George? None of you ever do. He looked away, shame written across his face. You're right, and that needs to change. As I drove home alone, tears streaming down my face, I realized something had to give. I couldn't keep living like this, caught between my love for Matthew and the toxicity of his family. It was time to make a choice, and as the Christmas lights faded in my rearview mirror, I knew exactly what I had to do. I sat on our living room couch, staring at the packed suitcase by the door. 3 days had passed since the Christmas disaster, and Matthew still hadn't come home. My phone buzzed, another text from him. I'm sorry, I need more time. More time for what? To choose between his wife and his mother? The thought made my stomach churn. A knock at the door startled me. I opened it, half expecting to see Matthew. Instead, I found myself face to face with George. Ava, he said, his voice heavy with concern. May I come in? I nodded, stepping aside. George entered, his eyes landing on my suitcase. You're leaving? He asked, alarm evident in his tone. I shrugged, fighting back tears. I don't know, maybe. I can't keep living like this, George. He sighed, sinking into an armchair. I understand, and that's why I'm here. It's time we talked about Jane. My heart raced. Was this another ambush? But George's next words shocked me to my core. I'm leaving her, Ava. I filed for divorce. I gaped at him, struggling to process this information. What? But why now? George's eyes met mine, filled with remorse and determination, because I've been a coward for far too long. What Jane did at Christmas was the last straw. I've enabled her behavior for years, and it stops now. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small notebook. I've been keeping track of Jane's episodes, the lies, the manipulation, everything. I thought maybe if I documented it, I'd find the courage to confront her. I took the notebook from him, flipping through the pages filled with dates and detailed accounts of Jane's actions. George, it's the truth, Ava, he said, his voice breaking. I should have stood up to her years ago, but I was too afraid. I'm so sorry for everything she's put you through. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Thank you, George. This means more than you know. He reached out, squeezing my hand. You're a good person, Ava. You deserve better than this. And so does Matthew. As George left, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this was the beginning of the end of Jane's reign of terror. Maybe, just maybe, we could all find some peace. Later that evening, I sat down with my phone, my heart heavy with uncertainty. I needed to talk to Matthew to tell him everything George had said. But as I dialed his number, the door creaked open and Matthew walked in, looking exhausted. Ava, he said, his voice soft and full of regret. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do. I stood up, walking over to him. Matt, we need to talk. George was here. He filed for divorce from Jane. Matthew's eyes widened in shock. He did. I nodded, holding up the notebook. He's been documenting everything. The lies, the manipulation, all of it. He wants to make things right. Matthew sank into the couch, his head in his hands. I can't believe it. After all these years, I sat down beside him, taking his hand. Matt, we can't keep living like this. I love you, but something has to change. We need to stand up to her together. But I never did, until now. As George flipped through the pages, recounting incident after incident, I felt a mix of vindication and horror. Jane's toxicity ran deeper than I had ever imagined. Does Matthew know? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. George shook his head. Not yet. I wanted to tell you first, to apologize for not standing up for you sooner, and to ask for your help. My help? Yes, Matthew, he's struggling, Ava. Jane's got her claws in deep. He needs us, both of us, to show him the truth. Just then, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Matthew. I'm coming home. We need to talk. I showed George the message, my heart pounding. He's on his way. George stood, determination etched on his face. Good. It's time we face this as a family, a real family. As we waited for Matthew, I felt a strange mix of hope and fear. Could this be the turning point we needed? The sound of a key in the lock made us both turn. Matthew walked in, his eyes widening at the sight of his father. Dad, what are you doing here? George stepped forward, placing a hand on Matthew's shoulder. Son, we need to talk about your mother. Matthew's face hardened. If you're here to defend her... No, George interrupted. I'm here to tell you the truth. All of it. For the next hour, George laid it all out. Years of manipulation, lies, and toxic behavior. Matthew listened in stunned silence, his face a storm of emotions. When George finished, Matthew turned to me, his eyes brimmy with tears. Ava, I'm so sorry. I had no idea it was this bad. I took his hand, squeezing it gently. It's not your fault, Matt, but we can't go on like this. We have to make a choice. Matthew nodded, a new resolve in his eyes. You're right. Both of you are. It's time we stood up to Mom together. As the three of us sat there planning our next move, I felt a glimmer of hope. The road ahead would be tough, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone in this fight. George cleared his throat. There's one more thing you both should know. I've decided to divorce Jane. The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. This was it, the point of no return. Whatever happened next would change our family forever. I looked at Matthew, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in his eyes that I felt. We were at a crossroads, and the path we chose would define our future. So I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. What do we do now? The courthouse loomed before us, a monolithic symbol of the battle we were about to face. George's hand trembled as he clutched the divorce papers, his face a mix of determination and fear. Matthew stood beside him, jaw clenched, while I hovered nearby, my heart racing. Are you sure about this, Dad? Matthew asked, his voice barely above a whisper. George nodded, his eyes steely. It's time, son. We can't let her toxicity poison our lives any longer. As we climbed the steps, a familiar voice rang out behind us. Well, well, what a touching family outing. We turned to see Jane, her lips curved in a cruel smile. She was impeccably dressed as always, but there was a wild look in her eyes that sent chills down my spine. Mom, Matthew started, but Jane cut him off with a wave of her hand. Save it, she spat. I know what this is. You're all conspiring against me. My own family, turning their backs on me. George stepped forward, his voice steady. Jane, this isn't a conspiracy. It's the consequence of your actions. We're here to file for divorce. Jane's face contorted with rage. Divorce? You can't divorce me. I've given you everything, my youth, my dreams, my life. And you've taken just as much from us, I found myself saying, surprising even myself with my boldness. Jane's eyes locked onto mine, blazing with hatred. You, she hissed, this is all your fault. You've poisoned them against me. Before I could react, Jane lunged at me, her manicured nails raking across my face. I stumbled backward, shocked by the sudden attack. Matthew jumped between us, restraining his mother as she thrashed and screamed. Let go of me. She's ruined everything. Our family, our lives. Security guards rushed over, pulling Jane away. As they escorted her off, she turned back, her face a mask of venom. This isn't over, she snarled. I'll destroy you all for this betrayal. Inside the courthouse, we sat in stunned silence, waiting for our turn to file the papers. My cheeks stung where Jane had scratched me, a physical reminder of the emotional wounds she'd inflicted over the years. I'm so sorry, Ava, Matthew murmured gently, touching my face. I never thought she'd. God, what have we done? I took his hand, squeezing it reassuringly. We're doing what's right, Matt. It's not easy, but it's necessary. George nodded, his face ashen. I should have done this years ago. Maybe then. He trailed off, but we all knew what he meant. Maybe then things wouldn't have gotten this bad. Maybe we could have salvaged some semblance of a normal family. As we waited, my phone buzzed incessantly. Messages flooded in from friends, neighbors, even colleagues. Jane had wasted no time spreading her version of events, telling everyone that we had you committed, George. I scrolled through the messages, accusations that we were trying to steal your assets and destroy your reputation. George's face fell. Of course she is. It's always been about control with Jane. If she can't have it, she'll burn everything to the ground. Just then, Matthew's phone rang. He answered, his face growing paler by the second. It's my boss, he whispered, covering the mouthpiece. Jane's called the company, claiming I'm having a mental breakdown and need to be placed on leave. I felt the walls closing in. Jane's web of lies and manipulation was spreading, threatening to unravel everything we'd worked for. Our careers, our reputations, our very lives were hanging in the balance. As Matthew argued with his boss, trying to explain the situation, I caught George's eye. The same thought passed between us. How far would Jane go in her quest for revenge? And more importantly, how could we stop her before she destroyed everything we held dear? The court clerk called our name, jolting us back to reality. This was it, the point of no return. As we stood to follow her into the judge's chambers, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a war we might not be prepared to fight. The aftermath of George's divorce filing was like a tornado tearing through our lives. Jane's venomous lies spread through the community like wildfire, leaving destruction in their wake. I stood on our front porch, watching as yet another neighbor hurried past, averting their eyes. The isolation was suffocating. George's voice called from inside. You need to see this. I rushed back in to find George and Matthew huddled around a laptop. On the screen was a local community forum, ablaze with posts about us. She's telling everyone I'm abusive, Matthew said, his voice cracking. That I've been manipulating Dad into the divorce, that we're after his money. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. This is insane. We have to do something. George nodded, a determined glint in his eye. I've been making some calls. It's time we fought back. Over the next few days, George became a man possessed. He went door to door, speaking to neighbors and showing them his notebook of Jane's misdeeds. I watched in awe as he transformed from the passive man I'd known into a fierce defender of the truth. But Jane wasn't going down without a fight. As George made headway with the neighbors, she upped her game. Suddenly, she was everywhere. At the grocery store, the park, even outside my office, always playing the part of the frail, wronged woman. "Did you see her at the pharmacy?" Mrs. Simmons cornered me one afternoon. Poor dear could barely walk. "Are you sure you're not being too harsh on her?" I bit back a scream of frustration. "Mrs. Simmons, it's all an act. Jane is." Now, she cut me off. "I know you're going through a rough patch, but let's not say things we can't take back." As Mrs. Simmons walked away, I felt the walls closing in. How could we fight an enemy who wielded sympathy as a weapon? The answer came in an unexpected form. One evening, as we sat around our dining table plotting our next move, a knock at the door interrupted us. Jane's phone buzzed. "It's Dr. Patel," George said, frowning. "Jane's doctor." We listened in stunned silence as George spoke to the doctor. When he hung up, his face was a mix of triumph and disgust. "Jane's been faking her health issues," he said. "Dr. Patel has been suspicious for a while and is willing to testify that there's nothing physically wrong with her." It was the break we needed. Armed with this information, we launched a counter-offensive. George spoke to the local paper, sharing his story and the truth about Jane's deception. Matthew reached out to his company, explaining the situation with Dr. Patel's statement backing him. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Neighbors who had shunned us started to reach out, offering apologies and support. Jane's web of lies began to unravel. But just as we thought we were gaining ground, disaster struck. I woke up one morning to find our front yard filled with news vans and reporters. "Ava," Matthew called from the living room. "You need to see this." On the TV, Jane stood before a sea of microphones, tears streaming down her face. "My own family," she sobbed. "They've turned against me all because I dared to speak the truth about their greed and manipulation." My heart sank as I watched the sympathetic nods of the reporters. Jane had taken her performance to a national stage. As the doorbell began to ring incessantly with reporters clamoring for our side of the story, I felt a wave of despair wash over me. How could we possibly fight this? Our private family drama had become a public spectacle, and Jane was playing the role of the victim to perfection. Matthew turned to me, his face pale. "What do we do now?" I looked from him to George, both men looking more defeated than I'd ever seen them. This was it, the moment that would define our future. We could either crumble under the pressure or stand up and fight. Taking a deep breath, I squared my shoulders. "We tell our story," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "All of it. No more hiding, no more shame. It's time the world knew the truth about Jane." As I reached for the door, ready to face the media storm outside, I silently prayed we were making the right choice. Because if this didn't work, we'd be giving Jane exactly what she wanted, our complete and utter destruction. The courtroom fell silent as Jane took the stand, her face a mask of practiced sorrow. I gripped Matthew's hand tightly, my heart pounding. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. "Mrs. Thompson," our lawyer began, "can you explain why you've been spreading false information about your family?" Jane's eyes welled with tears. "I've only ever told the truth. My family has abandoned me, left me to suffer alone." I felt a surge of anger, but before I could react, our lawyer produced a familiar notebook, George's meticulous record of Jane's behavior. "Your Honor," he said, "I'd like to present evidence of Mrs. Thompson's long history of manipulation and deceit." As our lawyer read excerpt after damning excerpt, I watched Jane's facade crumble. Her eyes darted around the courtroom, searching for sympathy but finding none. Then came the coup de grace. Dr. Patel's testimony. He calmly explained how Jane had fabricated her health issues, using them to garner sympathy and control her family. In my professional opinion, Dr. Patel concluded, Mrs. Thompson is in perfect health. Her claims of debilitating illness are entirely false. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Jane's face contorted with rage, her mask finally slipping completely. "You ungrateful wretches," she shrieked, pointing at us. "After everything I've done for you?" As security restrained her, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The truth was out, and Jane could no longer hide behind her lies. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. Jane was ordered to cease all contact with us, and George's divorce was finalized. As we left the courthouse, a crowd of reporters waited. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson," one called out, How do you feel about the verdict? I looked at Matthew and George, seeing my own mix of relief and sadness mirrored in their eyes. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward. We're relieved that the truth has come to light, I said, my voice steady. But more than that, we're hopeful that we can now move forward and heal as a family. In the weeks that followed, life slowly began to return to normal. Our neighbors, once wary, now greeted us warmly. Matthew's company, satisfied with the court's findings, welcomed him back with open arms. But the biggest surprise came on a quiet Sunday morning. As Matthew and I sat at the breakfast table, I felt a sudden wave of nausea. Ava, Matthew's voice was concerned. Are you okay? I looked up at him, a smile spreading across my face as realization dawned. Matthew, I think I'm pregnant. The joy that filled our home that day was indescribable. When we shared the news with George, his eyes filled with happy tears. Life finds a way, he said, hugging us both, even in the darkest times. As I stood there surrounded by the love of my family, I realized something profound. The ordeal with Jane, as painful as it had been, had made us stronger. We had faced the storm together and come out the other side, battered but unbroken. Months later, as I held our newborn daughter in my arms with Matthew and George by my side, I felt a sense of peace I'd never known before. We had weathered the worst and emerged victorious, not just over Jane's toxicity, but over the fear and doubt that had plagued us for so long. Welcome to the world, little one, I whispered, kissing her forehead. You're born into a family that knows the true meaning of love and loyalty. Matthew squeezed my shoulder, his eyes shining with pride and love. We've come so far, he murmured. George nodded, gently touching his granddaughter's cheek. And we have so much to look forward to. As I gazed at my daughter's innocent face, I made a silent promise. She would grow up knowing only love and support, free from the toxic influences that had nearly torn us apart. We had broken the cycle and in doing so, given her the greatest gift of all, a family built on trust, respect, and unconditional love. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but I knew we could face anything as long as we stood together. We had weathered the storm, and now, at last, we could bask in the sunlight of a brighter tomorrow. More champagne, Mom? Julian asked, refilling my glass before I could respond. I smiled hesitantly, nervously glancing at my son and his fiancée. We were celebrating their recent engagement with an intimate family dinner, though an unsettled feeling stirred in my gut. To your happiness, Sienna purred, clinking her glass against mine. I nodded and took a generous sip. There's something we wanted to discuss with you tonight, Julian said, exchanging a sly glance with Sienna. We're planning a huge engagement party next month. Only the best for our perfect union. I chuckled anxiously. How wonderful for you both, but those parties can get quite pricey, can't they? Oh, we're not paying a thing, Sienna said with a wave of her hand. That's going to be your gift to us. I nearly choked on my champagne. I'm sorry. As Julian's mother, it's your duty to pay, Sienna continued. We expect you to contribute at least $25,000. Consider it an investment in your son's future. They couldn't be serious. $25,000 for a party, I said incredulously. Do you have any idea how unreasonable? Don't be ridiculous, Mom, Julian interrupted. You make good money, and you have all the inheritance money from Dad you've been hoarding. My husband's recent death after battling cancer was still an open wound. I recoiled at their callous remarks. That money is my nest egg for retirement, and to pay these expenses without even consulting me first. Sienna rolled her eyes dramatically. Oh, still harping on about being consulted. Get over yourself already. You're the mother of the groom. This is what's expected. Shell out the cash and be grateful we're letting you contribute at all. You should feel honored we're even inviting you. Julian sneered. So write the damn check so we can start planning. I sat stunned, unable to comprehend their arrogance and disregard. I appealed once more to my son. Honey, be reasonable. You can have a lovely party without extravagant costs. Let's scale things back a bit. Julian slammed his fist on the table, rattling the glasses. I knew you would pull this cheapskate crap, he shouted. Some mother you are can't even support your only son. Hot tears sprang to my eyes as I took in their contemptuous glares. Perhaps I had spoiled my son rotten over the years, but I never imagined he could treat me with such cruelty and disrespect. I stood abruptly, disgusted by the two vipers lounging in my home. "I think you should leave now," I said quietly. Sienna leaped up and gripped my shoulders with sharp red nails. "Don't even try rejecting your duty," she growled, her perfumed breath assaulting my nostrils. "You either pay up, or you can kiss your relationship with Julian and any future grandchildren goodbye." I shook her off violently. "Get out," I bellowed. "Out of my house this instant." They stalked out without another word, but I saw them exchange a triumphant smirk. My heart dropped, realizing the engagement celebration I had hoped for would instead deliver nothing but greed, manipulation, and pain. The next evening, tired from a long day at work, but determined to settle the conflict, I prepared a simple pasta dinner, hoping to have an open discussion with Julian. I heard the front door slam and braced myself as loud footsteps echoed down the hall. "Something smells good." Julian breezed into the kitchen and headed straight for the wine cabinet. My hopes lifted for a moment, then quickly faded as Sienna clip-clopped in behind him, reeking of heavy perfume. So much for a private chat with my son. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" I asked dryly, draining the pasta. "You're going to love what we have planned," Sienna gushed, ignoring my tone as she rifled through her tacky designer handbag. "We met with the wedding coordinator today, and everything is set. All we need is one little thing from you." She flourished a folder stuffed with brochures and invoices. "Just sign on the dotted line for the $50,000 wedding package." I froze, a chill running down my spine. $50,000? I gasped. "For a single-day celebration? That's outrageous." "It's our special day," Julian whined. "Don't I deserve the very best?" I appealed to his conscience. "Son, be reasonable. Let's scale back and have an intimate, meaningful ceremony instead of this circus." Sienna slammed the folder down. "You incompetent hag. Who said this was open for discussion?" she screeched. "You will pay every penny to give your only son his dream wedding." Rage boiled up inside of me. Through gritted teeth, I replied, "You entitled, nasty piece off." "Mom, stop." We all turned in surprise to see my daughter, Harper, standing firmly in the archway. I had been so focused on the confrontation I hadn't even heard her come in. "Stay out of this, dyke," Sienna snarled at my heavily tattooed, alternative graphic novelist daughter. "It doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't," Harper retorted. "You don't talk that way to my mother." She crossed the room to stand protectively beside me. Under normal circumstances, I might have bristled at her interference, always trying to be the strong, independent matriarch. But at that moment, her solidarity was a lifeline, and I welcomed it. Julian threw his hands up melodramatically. "I asked for one little wedding, and my entire family turns against me." He pointed an accusing finger at his sister. "This is all your influence, filling Mom's head with delusions. She owes me this money and her loyalty." Harper folded her arms. "Mom owes you nothing but basic respect, which clearly isn't reciprocated. She raised you single-handedly after Dad died, working tirelessly to give you every advantage. And this is how you repay decades of love and generosity? With shameless exploitation." My ingrained son had no response other than childish whimpers. Harper turned to me, her tattooed hand gripping mine firmly. "You stand strong, Mom. Set boundaries and demand the respect you deserve. I've got your back." The knot in my chest loosened with immense relief. My daughter's stalwart support washed away my self-doubts. I would not bow down to these greedy, manipulative vultures for another minute. I drew myself up to full height, emboldened. "You both have two choices," I addressed Julian and Sienna in a loud, clear voice. "Treat me and my daughter with basic decency, or get the hell out of our lives." Sienna opened her mouth, no doubt to spew more bile. But she caught Harper's murderous glare, thought better of it, and dragged a whimpering Julian out by his ear instead. I squeezed Harper's hand, my eyes brimming with grateful tears. "However did I get so lucky to have a daughter like you?" She smiled crookily. "Just being a chip off the old block. Now let's dish up that pasta and plot our next move. These asshats don't know who they're messing with." The next week crawled by in intense uncertainty. My phone buzzed incessantly with demanding texts and voicemails from Julian, raging when I didn't immediately call him back. I started screening my calls, not having the energy to deal with his abusive diatribes. When Saturday afternoon came, I decided to treat myself to a manicure to lift my spirits. As I sat relaxing while the technician groomed my nails, my phone buzzed yet again. Normally, I would ignore it, but glancing down, I saw it was a call from Julian's number. Curiosity got the best of me. "Hi, honey," I answered cautiously. "It's your witch of a mother," came Sienna's grating voice instead. My blood instantly started boiling. I was just about to hang up when I heard Julian's sneering tones in the background. "Is the old bag actually taking your call? She's been dodging mine all week." There was a rustling sound, followed by his voice coming clearly through the phone speaker. "Mom, what the hell? I've been calling nonstop. Have you given any more thought to funding the wedding? The coordinator is breathing down my neck." I opened my mouth to deliver a stern refusal, but Sienna's shrill voice cut me off. "Oh, let it go already. She's clearly a lost cause." There was a slap, as if she swatted his arm. "Your mother is a dried-up, selfish prune. Once we're married, we'll change all the account passwords so she can never access our money." My eyes nearly popped out of my skull. "Our money." There was more rustling. Then Sienna's grating voice continued. "Why are we even still inviting her to the wedding? She'll just show up wearing some raggedy outfit from the clearance rack at TJ Maxx." Their raucous laughter boiled my blood, but worse was Julian's reply. "Right? God, and you know she's going to be all whiny about contributing to our future, as if that puny life insurance payout could compare to what I make in a month." The hair on my neck bristled with outrage. The puny payout was nearly $500,000 that I had invested for retirement, not blow 'em on sports cars and designer clothes like my prodigal son. Sienna scoffed loudly. "Oh please, we both know it was your daddy's money that set you up nicely at that firm. Your mother couldn't manage an allowance without a man's help." "Hell yes to that," Julian cackled. "And we put that inheritance money to way better use, like annual trips to Dubai. First class all the way." Their uproarious laughter made my blood boil. I stabbed the red foam icon with so much force I nearly cracked the screen. Those money-grubbing snakes. I had suspected their motive all along, but hearing their vile words firsthand rocked me to the core. My hands trembled with rage and indignation. I waved away the technician's concerned glances, threw a wad of cash on the counter, and raced for the door. I drove home in record time, burning up with the need to unload to Harper. Thankfully, she was already there waiting, her motorcycle parked haphazardly on the driveway. I burst through the front door, and she leaped up from the couch, startled by my frazzled state. The story came pouring out in an enraged torrent. Harper's green eyes blazed. "Those conniving ___," she yelled. "I knew it all along. It was never about family or celebration. They just see you as a cash dispensary." "I feel so betrayed and used," I said bitterly, choking back tears of frustration. "My only son. How could he?" Harper gripped my shoulders, her piercing gaze meeting mine. "Mom, listen to me. We need to gather evidence and expose these cockroaches for who they really are." Her fist hit her palm with a decisive whack. "Contact the wedding coordinator. Get documentation of everything they arranged without your consent. I'll dig into Sienna's background too. I guarantee her family is loaded despite those snake oil tears. We're going to shut this whole circus down." Hope and courage surged up in me again. My wonderful daughter was right. The time had come to take control and fight back. I pulled her in for a fierce hug, more grateful than ever for her integrity and strength. "Let's go nail their greedy asses to the wall." Over the next 2 weeks, Harper and I gathered reams of evidence exposing Julian and Sienna's deceit. Harper uncovered that Sienna came from an extremely affluent family who were fully capable of funding their daughter's lavish tastes. Get this, Harper had uncovered on LinkedIn. Her father owns a huge real estate investment firm. He could easily foot the bill for this circus wedding. Meanwhile, I obtained financial records from the wedding coordinator showing the exorbitant expenses Julian and Sienna were trying to rack up on my dime. $75,000 and counting. "We have everything we need to confront these swindlers," Harper declared, spreading paperwork across the dining table before us. "Let's invite them over to review wedding plans and then drop the hammer on them." Her green eyes glinted with determination. So I extended the bait, luring them over under the pretense of financing, reconciliation, and celebration details. The bait was taken instantly. Right on time, the doorbell screeched urgently. Before I could even answer, Julian and Sienna blew in. reeking as usual of arrogance and channel number 5. "Where's my check, then?" Julian demanded right off the bat. Subtlety had never been his strong suit. Sienna elbowed him sharply, then plastered on a syrupy smile. "Yes, do tell us the good news," she trilled. "We have so many decisions to finalize for our big day." I gestured for them to take a seat. Under the table, Harper silently slid me the thick manila envelope containing the damning evidence. My heart pounded, but resolve hardened my nerves. I folded my hands tightly on the table. "Before we discuss any further arrangements, I have a few concerns to address." I removed the paperwork from the envelope and fanned it out in front of me. According to the wedding coordinator, current expenses total $75,000. Care to explain? Sienna scoffed loudly. "It's the wedding of the century. What do you expect?" "I expect honest communication around finances and shared responsibility," I replied evenly. "For example, why don't Sienna's clearly wealthy parents contribute their fair share?" After all, I pulled out a copy of her dad's business profile with a net worth in the tens of millions. They could easily afford this. Sienna blanched. Julian sputtered angrily. "Leave Sienna's family out of this. My wedding, my financial support," he turned to point a finger at me. "And you're my mother, so cut the check." Having expected denial, I calmly slid over the pile of invoices and contracts. "Actually, these documents prove otherwise. They have my forged signature authorizing non-refundable down payments totaling $155,000 so far. Care to explain that?" Sienna gasped dramatically. "Are you accusing us of fraud?" From beside me, Harper suddenly slammed down an authoritative fist. "Damn straight she is." My daughter's unexpected bellows stunned them into momentary silence. Harper seized the opportunity to append the rest of the manila envelope's contents across the table. Bank statements, screenshots, and phone records, irrefutable evidence of their lies and manipulation, scattered dramatically before us. "It's all here in black and white," Harper spat with unrestrained disgust. "You snakes have been exploiting my mother's love and trust this whole time, never giving a damn about family bonds, just what you can swindle out of her." "You were spying on us?" Julian spluttered in outrage. "Gathering evidence against your fraud," I corrected icily. "And now that everything is laid bare, you will cancel this sham wedding immediately." Sienna shot up out of her chair, nostrils flaring. "How dare you?" she shrieked. "I will be marrying Julian with or without your money." She turned to my son with a pout. "Back me up here." But Julian just sat there, pale and trembling, the magnitude of revelations rocking him into stunned silence for once. The confrontation had rendered him speechless. Sienna rolled her eyes in disgust. "You spineless mama's boy." "Forget it." She snatched her tacky designer handbag and stormed out, pausing in the doorway to deliver one final venomous glare. "You'll regret this," she hissed at me. "We won't forget." Then she flounced away in a cloud of Chanel. I stared evenly back at my shaken son. "Nor will we," I said quietly. "Now leave." He scrambled up hurriedly, but just before exiting, he mumbled a soft but clear threat. "I'll make you pay for this." The day I had been dreading arrived. Julian and Sienna's lavish wedding. I had hoped her confrontation would be the end of it, but these stubborn snakes pursued their farce nuptials anyway, blowing through even more of the retirement money I had entrusted to Julian's accounts. So here I sat, an unwilling participant in their twisted matrimonial circus. All around me, intoxicated guests gambled under ostentatious floral arrangements that cost more than my first car. The crowning glory was an 8-tier fondant cake dripping with handcrafted sugar flowers. Julian and Sienna's smug faces towered above it all in a massive golden frame. My daughter Harper slouched next to me, clad in ripped jeans and combat boots, her pixie-cut green hair clashing spectacularly with the pastel bridesmaid dresses. We silently watched the overblown spectacle unfold, barely concealing our disgust. Suddenly, the music transitioned to a bombastic wedding march. The crowd hushed in anticipation as Julian took his place under the altar's garish archway. My heart clenched. He looked so much like his father, tall and dashing in his tuxedo, beaming with charismatic charm. Not a trace remained of the petulant, greedy boy I had confronted just weeks prior. Radiant pride glowed from him as his bride floated down the aisle. Dressed in a frothy designer gown I had no doubt charged to my credit card. Old memories and grief welled up. I had walked that same path over 30 years ago, naive and drunk on dreams of lifelong partnership and family, dreams that soured all too quickly. My faith in love and devotion had died alongside my husband, and now the son we created together slapped me in the face with the same callous disregard. As the ceremony droned on, a righteous rage simmered within me. I could not, bless this loveless union with my presence for another moment. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping loudly across the polished floor. All eyes turned to me. Harper grasped my hand supportively. I cleared my throat, meeting Julian's alarmed gaze. I apologize, but I cannot stay silent about this travesty. My voice rang out loud and clear. Murmurs rippled through the stunned guests. Julian flushed crimson, shrinking under my bold stare. Before he could muster a response, Sienna shoved past him, teeth bared and eyes spitting fury. "How dare you interrupt my perfect day?" She advanced toward me, manicured claws outstretched menacingly. I stepped back, recoiling from her vicious energy. Harper immediately confronted the deranged bride. "Back off," she commanded, her voice like steel. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Harper relied on my sharp business instincts to manage her quickly ballooning finances. At her behest, I leveraged decades of investment experience to establish trademarks, negotiate publishing rights, and maximize profits. I swelled with pride watching my daughter's passions flourish under my careful cultivation. Soon, Harper was regularly turning up in edgy fashion magazines and sought-after graphic anthologies. She purchased a sleek downtown loft as her business base of operations, proudly showcasing the extravagant views she had earned solely through her prodigious talents. To celebrate Harper's rapid rise, I decided to host an intimate gathering of key supporters and collaborators at her swanky new digs. The catered affair would mark her official arrival as an artistic visionary and independent woman of means. Harper greeted guests with an uncharacteristic nervous energy as I directed caterers to artfully arrange free-flowing champagne and delicate canapés. "You have nothing to worry over," I reassured my daughter as I straightened her smart blazer. "Just be your normal captivating self. These people already adore you." Soon the loft overflowed with Harper's avant-garde inner circle. Daring writers, leading publishers, edgy photographers, and even some A-list names from Harper's celebrity clientele. They all made appearances to toast their favorite tattoo visionary. Pride swelled my chest to hear such powerful figures celebrating my exceptionally talented daughter. This was the launch party Julian could only ever fantasize about. 2 short years ago, my family's name was tarnished by greedy failures. Now, through Harper's virtues, respect had not only been restored but elevated to an artistic elite status. Late into the evening, I stepped onto the balcony beside Harper, gazing over vibrant city lights. She squeezed my hand gently. "None of this would be possible without you, Mom. You believed in me when no one else did, invested in me, fought for me. I'll owe you forever." I wrapped one arm around her slim, leather-clad shoulders, champagne flute clutched elegantly in the other hand. "Nonsense, my brave darling. Your soaring success stems solely from your vision and daring talents." I swept one arm across the glimmering skyline before us. "All this you manifested wholly on your own. I merely facilitated the business deals so you could freely create." Harper grinned quickly. "Ah yes, well, I clearly inherited your ruthless business savvy along with Dad's creative spirit." She playfully clinked her glass to mine. "To the dynamic duo, may we always prevail over vipers and thieves." I laughed brightly, heart swelling with maternal joy. My daughter and I had come through the crucible of greed and betrayal to now bask in self-made success. As the lively celebration carried on behind us, I silently offered one final toast upward to her beloved father. We had created a fine legacy after all, one sculpted purely from integrity, courage, and toil instead of entitlement or manipulation. That legacy now towered as a gleaming testament to morality for all the Julians of the world to gaze upon with envy for decades to come. Over the next 2 years, Harper's star continued to ascend in a brilliant, trailblazing trajectory. Meanwhile, I heard through mutual contacts that Julian languished in obscurity and mounting debt. His lavish lifestyle sustained itself for a while on credit before the house of cards inevitably collapsed. The rare times Julian's name surfaced, it was tied to seedy gossip rags and drunken tabloid scandals. From Sienna's very public affair to Julian getting fired from a car dealership for defaulting on payments. Karma seemed intent on grinding my prodigal son into the dirt. I ignored the lurid headlines with a quiet sense of satisfaction, confident I would never lay eyes on him again. By now, I had retired from corporate leadership to focus on passion projects, indulging artistic hobbies, volunteering with disadvantaged youth, and planning leisurely global adventures. I decided it was also time to downsize into a lower maintenance home. After a prolonged search, I found my perfect oasis, a private bungalow in a picturesque coastal senior community. Mature trees and vibrant gardens welcomed me each morning as I embarked on scenic nature walks with dear widowed friends. The idyllic setting and social kinship brought me a sense of peace I hadn't realized was missing. Meanwhile, Harper had also found her soul's counterpart, a brilliant software developer named Riley who adored her vibrant spirit. I instantly detected true partnership potential upon meeting Riley. My instincts proved correct. Just months after moving in together, Harper excitedly presented me with news of their engagement. I whooped joyfully when she flashed the unique geometric ring Riley had custom designed. "My darling girl," I exclaimed through happy tears, "I'm thrilled you found someone deserving of your tremendous heart." The private garden wedding ceremony Harper described echoed my own intimate vision 3 decades prior. No showy fanfare, just profound lifelong commitment celebrated by cherished community. I clasped Harper's hand, overcome with emotion at how perfectly she was manifesting her father's and my unrealized dreams. Later, during wedding planning over tea and biscuits, Harper hesitated before broaching the subject I knew she would. "Mom, about inviting Julian." I waved one hand briskly. "Let's not sully your special day by entertaining that notion." Harper bit her lip. "I just can't help but pity him, you know? He's clearly a miserable screw-up, but still family, even if he doesn't deserve it. I wonder if including him would be the right thing." She trailed off uncertainly. Recognizing my daughter's enduring compassion even for those who least warranted it, I patted her hand reassuringly. "You needn't ever compromise your kind principles. If some small mercy for Julian eases your mind, I can tolerate his presence just this once." Harper exhaled in relief and squeezed my hand gratefully. "You're the best, Mom. I knew you'd understand." The sentimental moment was sharply interrupted by my ringing cell phone. Glancing down, I was stunned to see Julian's name flash across the screen. Months had passed since his last desperate drunken voicemail pleading for money. Face grim, I silenced the call. "Speak of the devil," I remarked dryly. Harper shook her head. "He never stops trying to worm his way back in. But don't worry, Mom. After the wedding, you'll never have to deal with his garbage again." I smiled gently at my daughter's protective tone. She was right. The time had long passed for me to entertain Julian's self-pitying overtures. I now had all I ever needed right here in my tranquil life, surrounded by those whose souls nurtured mine. No redirects from a toxic past could ever breach that blessing. I patted Harper's hand resolutely. "Onwards and upwards, my dear. Now tell me more about the lovely flower arrangements you envisioned."